All right, we're diving straight into the shadows today with one of the absolute most fascinating true crime digital investigations of the modern era. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're dissecting the story of a massive criminal empire that literally gripped the internet. But we're also looking at something else. Exactly how the digital world itself acts as a gatekeeper, controlling our access to these incredible hidden truths.
So, who is the criminal mastermind behind the Silk Road? Man, it's a haunting question, right? It acts as the perfect cold open for us today, because we aren't talking about a local bank heist here. We're talking about an invisible digital phantom pulling the strings of a global underground network. When you look at the source material we are investigating today, this is the core mystery pushed right to the very front. It demands our attention and hooks us right out of the gate.
Just take a look at the cover of Nick Bilton's American Kingpin. The design is incredibly stark and commanding. You've got this heavy, blood-red typography set against a dark, obscured silhouette. It instantly screams danger, secrecy, and insanely high stakes. And check out the visual hierarchy, those massive, towering letters spelling out American Kingpin. It makes it crystal clear that we are dealing with a story of truly immense scale and consequence.
And notice that specific phrase right there, epic hunt. This wasn't your standard routine police bust. The author deliberately chose the word epic. It suggests a sprawling, incredibly difficult, and drawn-out pursuit. It tells us that capturing this individual required crossing vast, entirely digital territories. They weren't just knocking on a door. They were literally chasing a ghost through the endless labyrinth of the internet.
And then, of course, there's the label Criminal Mastermind. You don't hand that title to a street-level thief. It highlights an adversary who architects a highly calculated system, right? Someone who is actively anticipating the authorities' every move and building impenetrable defenses. The investigators were up against a formidable, deeply intelligent target who built an entire empire solely on breaking the law. And that brings us to the setting of this massive crime, the Silk Road. But as we know from following this kind of digital investigation, this is not a physical street. You absolutely cannot point to it on a standard map. It represents a notorious, deeply hidden digital empire. By naming the platform Silk Road, the mastermind evoked the old historical trade routes, but totally twisted the concept into a modern, unregulated, and illicit marketplace tucked away in the darkest corners of the web. Which naturally leads us to ask, what actually makes a digital kingpin different from a traditional one? Well, think about it. A traditional kingpin has physical assets, physical territories, a physical paper trail. But a digital kingpin? They operate behind thick layers of encryption, fake usernames, and routed IP addresses. And as we pivot from the dramatic promises of this book's cover to the reality of how we consume digital information today, we realize something fascinating. Everything in the digital age is hidden behind barriers, and the story of this very investigation is definitely no exception.
And boom, here's the exact point where we hit a brick wall. The full text of the story in the background is completely, deliberately blurred out. You can literally see the shape of the paragraphs. The thrilling details of this epic hunt are sitting right there, but you just cannot read them. The digital platform has locked the story behind a prompt. It acts as a gatekeeper, much like the encryption that protected the Silk Road itself. The irony here is actually brilliant. Just as the criminal mastermind hid his empire behind the dark web, the digital platform is hiding this very story behind a commercial barrier.
The digital barrier flat out tells you you're reading a preview. Now, this is the psychology of the tease in full action. The platform gives you just enough, you get the gripping cover, the bold title, maybe the first couple of sentences, just to build up this intense, burning curiosity, and then it drops the curtain. It tells you your access is limited. You're just aghast in this digital space, and to uncover the secrets of the criminal mastermind, well, you're going to have to play by the platform's rules.
And look at the unyielding nature of this paywall. No matter how much you scroll down, no matter where you look on the page, that frustrating blur just persists. It's wild, because the more you can kind of make out the shape of the unreadable text, the more your desire mounts to uncover the hidden story of the American Kingpin. It's a highly effective digital mechanism specifically engineered from the ground up to convert your curiosity directly into action.
So, the platform's user journey is basically this highly structured three-step trap. Step 1, you read the preview and get totally hooked on the epic hunt. Step 2, you hit the sudden stop of the blurred text, and you experience all that friction. And Step 3, you are presented with the commercial solution to your frustration, which is gaining access to over 1 million titles. The platform forces you from a state of suspense directly into making a subscription decision. Honestly, it is an absolute masterclass in digital conversion.
Their ultimate pitch is to enjoy unlimited access to over 1 million titles. And the irony here is pretty striking. We came looking for one highly secretive, specific story about the Silk Road, right? But the platform leverages our suspense to sell us an entire digital library. It uses the weight and the mystery of the American Kingpin to drive user signups, basically promising that the friction of the blur will magically disappear if we just take this one final step.
So we bring it right back to where we started, that dramatic, commanding cover of Nick Bilton's book, the stark red text, the silhouette hiding in the shadows, the evidence waits, the epic hunt, the meticulous breakdown of exactly how a digital empire was built and ultimately dismantled. It is all sitting right there, just beyond the digital barrier. The story is captured, but your access to it remains entirely conditional.
So are you ready to bypass the blur and discover the true story of the Silk Road? You understand the stakes of the investigation now, and you clearly see the mechanics of the digital barrier standing in your way. The information is out there, waiting to be unlocked. You just have to decide, are you willing to pay the toll?